Hello, everybody. We are rounding off today with a nice big audience, which is awesome. Thank you for joining us. Lots of thumb emojis. Thank you very much. So Alex Chisnell here, content director at the Festival of Enterprise, brought to you today. And this is our second week, in fact, day one of week 2, Festival of Startups. I'm joined by Will Niven, co-founder of Unboxed.
Hi everyone, hope everyone is well. I want to say how are you, but then no one can talk back. But yeah, I'm the founder and MD of Unboxed. So we're a web design agency based in Bournemouth. And yeah, me and Alex have been doing bits and bobs over the last sort of 6 months on podcasts and things. It's just nice to be able to jump on and kind of be able to talk to someone, even if it is virtually like this. But yeah.
It's the way forward at the moment. In fact, the only way at the moment. So yeah, Will kind of underscores himself. He's set up this agency when he was still at uni, and now 5 years on, build websites for some amazing brands. Literally probably started out with I don't know, building your own website, or for £100, and now doing websites for 100 grand for some of the world's biggest brands, and exciting new startups as well. So we're going to be hearing his top 10 considerations to make sure that you are investing in the right set to enable your growth as a business, as an entrepreneur. And we'd like to make this interactive. I just hosted a previous webinar on content creation and podcasting, outlining 3 different ways you've got to document what you do or create content, i.e. visual, audio, written word. So it's nice to lead into this chat today. So if you've just joined us and you haven't been on one of these before, on the right-hand side, you've got live chat. Underneath that, you've got questions tab. So use either of those to comment on what Will and I are talking about, to ask a question, to drop in a LinkedIn profile to connect, because normally, we would be at the NEC or at Olympia, which was the plan for this year. So instead, we decided to bring this to you online. So we'd like to make it as interactive as possible. I can see people are still piling in. This is a good time of day, I think, to do these. Mine was really popular at 12, and so is this one at 2. So this is great. So I'm going to start off. Will's going to dive into top 10 considerations when it comes to make sure you're investing in the right setup for your website. So, Will, 5 years in, you must know a few things.
Yeah, so I think we've now probably hit in excess of about 3,000 clients. We set up our own hosting platform a couple of years ago, and this whole lockdown kind of craziness has just skyrocketed us. It feels weird saying that because obviously everyone's all over the place at the moment. But we've been lucky enough to hire sort of 4 new people over the past few months, and we're looking to make another 2 hires this side of Christmas. So yeah, it's a really exciting time, and I think it's a really good time to talk about what is needed, what to consider when you're moving online, and what you need in order to kind of be successful. And I think probably some of the points people will know, some won't. To us, this is kind of like something rule of thumb that we go through, asking these questions to prospective new clients before they come on board. And it just helps guide you what's going to be the best avenue, and also maybe answer a few questions that people may have when they're coming to do new web projects, because it can be a bit of a minefield. You've got freelancers, you've got your own platforms where you can build your own websites, and then you've got agencies that can do them bespoke. So I'll talk about the different options, what's the best route for each scenario, and that sort of thing from there. So
that'd be perfect. Perfect.
Yeah. So just to kind of jump in, I think the very first thing to establish is what is the primary goal of the website that you need building, or you're going to be having developed. For example, is it for sales? Is it for inquiries? Is it for brand awareness? And I think just really early on, establishing what it is you're looking to achieve from this new website will help determine exactly which route you're going to go down, how you're going to lay things out, where the call to actions are going to be, and where you're going to drive customers and that sort of thing. So I think starting with that is, if you're a e-commerce company, or you're looking to sell your products online, and sales is your primary goal, then you need to think about things of how is it going to be managed, how many products do I have, how is it going to be developed, and that sort of thing. If it's an inquiry-based website, you need to think about contact forms, multiple points of contact for the prospective customers. And if it's just a showcase website and it's about brand awareness, then you need to think about how you need to convey the brand properly. So establishing that early on, I think that is number one, and that's kind of the primary focus. So once you know what your primary goal is and what function this website needs to serve, because essentially it's going to be your digital shop front. Who are you targeting with it? You know, what demographic are you targeting geographically, age, gender, what sort of budget points are they looking for, and what are they looking to get out of sort of visiting your website as an end product?
And how many goals, Will, would you say somebody, how clear should that be? Should there be, you know, one overriding goal, or could it be a bunch of different things that you're looking to accomplish essentially?
I mean, generally, it's if you've got an e-commerce website and you're looking to sell your product online, it's going to be set up and built in a very certain way. And you're going to want to funnel people through the purchasing process. So, for example, you may want people to be able to purchase a product and complete a transaction within 3 clicks. If it's an inquiry website, then you need to try and direct your customer towards the relevant service and then extract the right information so that you can turn that inquiry into a new client, really. So determining that early on is super important. And I think just trying to keep things concise, straight to the point, and not overloading it with content. People like simple. People like to be able to get where they want to be as quickly as possible. And if they're shopping around as well, you may only have sort of a handful of seconds or maybe a minute or so to grab their attention. So yeah, it's a lot of companies will build a website and not really put much thought into this and show people what they think they need to be seeing, but actually it needs to be thought of more of a conversion tool. So once you've got what the function website, what the function of the website needs to be and who you're going to be targeting, you need to think about how the website is going to be built and how it's going to be developed. And this can be dependent on budget. This can be dependent on timeframes. It can be dependent on how it needs to be managed once the site's been launched. But something just to take into consideration is that there needs to be an allocation for a marketing spend in order to actually drive customers to this new website that you're building. So it's better to have a very clear plan of action pre-launch and post-launch of how long is it going to take to build, how much is it going to cost to actually have it built, how is it going to be managed afterwards, what's my marketing budget allocation going to be, and all these sort of questions need to be asked sort of beforehand. So in terms of having the website built, obviously there's a few options. You've got self-managed website building sites such as Shopify and Squarespace, which are probably the most popular. Shopify is primarily an e-commerce platform. So anyone that's got sort of north of 5 products plus, Shopify is a really easy route to market, which you can build yourself or have a Shopify developer build for you. But also ease of management post-launch is really helpful. People always ask me about Squarespace and having that as an e-commerce platform. I would advise against it. It's more of a showcase website. You've also got like a lot of limitations in terms of the integrations that you can build into the website, and you've also got to think about longevity and how you can scale it up. Squarespace is not really a platform that you can scale up massively from, whereas Shopify is. So essentially, they have a very similar pricing structure in how you build the websites, but if you're looking to scale an e-commerce business, Shopify is a really good first route to market from that side of things. So the other option is if you're kind of a bigger e-commerce store, you need something a bit more bespoke. You've kind of got Squarespace, Shopify, maybe to WordPress from that point. And you may need to get a developer, whether it's a freelancer or an agency, to build that for you. WordPress is a lot more flexible. It's a lot more robust, as long as you've got a good hosting package kind of with it. And for bigger e-commerce stores, anything more bespoke, that's going to work really well. Anything north of that, if you need sort of CRM integration or sort of ERP systems and that sort of thing, massive scale e-commerce stores, you're probably looking at Magento as the best platform. But most businesses which will be looking to move online with what's happening at the moment, like retail companies that are looking to move online and sell their, just being able to sell their products online, Shopify is a really, really good option from there. So the next thing to think about is who is going to be producing the content and the copy for the website. So there needs to be consideration taken into pre-launch. So in terms of when you're uploading your products and populating the website, who's doing the copywriting, who's producing the photography, who's producing the film. And this can have a big hindrance in terms of timescales, but also a big impact in terms of budget. And you want to keep that consistency post-launch as well. So whoever you're getting to assist you in producing that content beforehand, you want to be able to make sure that you can maintain that to keep consistency once the site is launched afterwards. And yeah, sorry, go on.
I was going to say that's got to be one of the biggest roadblocks for you to complete what your job is got to be, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, copywriting is always a big sticking point because you want it to be optimized. It needs to be in line with the brand guidelines of the company, and also everything's got to be reinforcing that demographic, who you're targeting, what is it saying to the customer, how are we being perceived, and is it telling them exactly what they need? My recommendation would always be to get a professional copywriter, someone that's got experience with SEO as well, just to make sure that it's hitting all the relevant keywords, metadata, and that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Photography and film, I think it's something that people really look past, but content is king. And if you need something that's engaging, that's going to be eye-catching, and essentially that is what's going to sell your brand and your product. So that's something that really needs to be considered and invested in. And there's tons of options for that. You know, you've got freelance photographers and videographers, you've got production houses, you can buy stock content. So there's a lot of different options for different scenarios for that side of things.
I was going to say, for a lot of say businesses that maybe have been born out of the pandemic, of which there's never been a greater number than this year, the amount of people starting businesses. Would you recommend, and people trying to bootstrap everything, do you think an easy first call to make is to outsource the copywriting side of it?
Yeah, I would. What I would do is find a copywriter that specializes in your field, so that they really understand your product and what you're trying to convey. For example, if you're, well, probably not like hospitality at this point in time, but if someone specializes in hospitality, or if it's retail, or if it's pharmaceutical, they'll have the knowledge, and it's going to be much, much easier to direct them into exactly what you want. To be fair, we don't even have copywriters in-house. We outsource all of our copywriting. We got an SEO company that we work alongside that does a lot of it to make sure that sites are optimized. But it's sometimes quite good to get like a branding persona beforehand anyway. So who is our target customer? How are we trying to appeal to them, and that sort of thing. So yeah, content, copywriting, really, really important.
Yeah.
The other thing to think about is how, once this new website's launched, how are you going to be directing traffic to the website? Where are these customers going to be coming from? Because I think something that gets really overlooked is it's all well and good investing a load of money and a load of time into having a great website, but if there's no customers going there and there's no traffic there and it doesn't convert, then it's not really doing its job that it's meant to be there for.
Yeah.
So essentially, there's two major ways of driving traffic to the site, and that's either going to be via social media ads or Google advertising, so PPC. And a really easy way to compare those two is that social media is essentially targeting people based on interests and demographic, and you're putting a product in front of them, hoping that they're going to purchase that. They're going to see what they like and kind of reach out and purchase it. The conversion rate is a lot lower because they're not actively searching for it. Whereas with PPC, for Google advertising, they're actively searching for said keywords. So I don't know, hanging indoor plants, for instance. And if they're then presented with that on Google Shopping and it's what they want, and they click through to the shop, then the conversion rate is going to be a lot higher. Google advertising can be quite expensive. So I think it's always worth speaking to a company that does PPC before investing in a new website, just to kind of gauge how much that's going to cost, how much traffic that's going to return. And usually they'll be able to work out an ROI So based on this amount of spend, and this is the amount of clicks, this is what your conversion rate is going to be. This is roughly what you'll see in terms of a return, and they'll work out a scaled approach based on your budget, and you can work it against what the website's going to cost you and that sort of thing.
Is that something that you do as well? Well, I was trying to remember, or is that something that over time you've learned to outsource out and just focus on?
No, so for us, we're full service, so we do everything from branding and identity design. We've developed the platform, so whether that's a showcase site, website, web app, and that sort of thing, and then we do all forms of digital marketing. PPC, for example, for our own agency, is what's allowed us to grow kind of exponentially over the past 6 months. We were spending probably £300 to £500 a day back in February, and that was getting us around 5 inquiries a day. So we're now spending about £1,000 to £1,500 a day, and we get about 30 to 50 new inquiries a day on Google Ads.
Wow.
for web design, and that's just how much it's kind of shot up at the moment. Yeah. It's just absolutely crazy. But the main thing is, if someone's searching for a product and you target them correctly and you present that product in front of them, there's no reason that they wouldn't want to buy it. So it's one of those things. So if anyone's got any questions about social media or PPC or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me, or ask me any questions whilst we're on here, and because it can be a bit of a minefield. But basically, Google has a thing called a keyword calculator, and it allows you to build dummy campaigns based on historic data, and then it will project like future what it guesses that the stats are going to be sort of going forward, and it's pretty accurate, to be honest. So you can usually work it out from there.
And what's that called again? I'll just type up into the chat for people.
Keyword Planner by Google. Yeah. And then they've got another one called Trends as well. So if you're looking for a pop-up company or something, you can see what's trending at the moment. So if you're looking for new e-commerce businesses and that sort of thing, that can be fairly handy. So going on from driving the traffic, I think it's really clear to have a very clear call to action, or what's referred to as a CTA. And if it's a showcase website and you're advertising your business's services, then that may be, for instance, get a quote or organize a call or email us or this sort of thing. If it's e-commerce, it's making it as easy for the customer to purchase that product, whether it's wish list, add to their basket, and you've got remarketing tools and that sort of thing that can touch base with them again. But just making that clear, that CTA very, very clear, and not making it so that they've got to delve miles into the website to get to where they want, is pretty important. I mean, what's the main importance of the website. So next thing is having a really decent hosting package. So it's all well and good having an all singing, all dancing website, but if you haven't got a decent hosting package and the site is not optimized for speed, then your bounce rate is going to be kind of off the chart. So, people be going on there, it's taking ages to load, and then they're not probably going to stick around from that point. So you'll find with a lot of these hosting companies, they'll have speed optimization packages where it can compress the images, it can deal with caching and this sort of thing. And all these little tiny things, which might seem minute, all add up into obviously converting more customers. So from those call to actions, I think it's quite important to have multiple contact points for your customers as well. So I'm a big fan of live chats. I think it's a really easy way for customers to get in touch from that side of things. There's a platform called Tidio that we use, so Tidio. And Tidio is essentially a live chat platform, but they have a really easy, I'll post the link in here. They have a really easy to build chatbot. And what it will allow you to do is to pre-upload your FAQs, and it will automate responses using AI based on people's searches, based on what people are talking about. And for us, it has just saved like countless hours and hours of admin time. So for instance, someone's directed through, actually I can do a screen share. I'll show you an example. Share. Is that sharing? Let's try this. Do you see my screen now?
Not yet. Yeah, if you share screen, you should get a couple of options.
This one? Is that Sherry? Sorry about this.
That's all right. I've got a question anyway.
Go on, you fire away, and I'll see if I can get this up.
Yeah. Boy Wonder Blogger. Now, there's a name that got my attention straight away for a question.
Yeah.
Would you say it's best to have some conversions first before investing in paid search ads? And if so, how many do you think you need? Going to be ballpark, isn't it? But thanks for
so there's a couple of different scenarios where, you know, ways of approaching PPC. The way that we would always approach a campaign is first doing the keyword research, so seeing how many people are searching for that product, and then we would produce a kind of a keyword report from there. So how many people are searching for it? How much is it going to cost us? How many clicks is that going to put through? How much is your average customer worth, and what do you reckon the conversion rate's going to be? So if the conversion rate is 1%, for every 100 people, one person is going to actually buy that product. When you first launch a website, if it's a new website, you're generally not going to get much traffic to it unless you're doing heavy amounts on social media. If it's a new website, you're not going to have much search rankings at all. So you're going to need a way of driving traffic. I would recommend launching PPC, you know, right away. It's a really easy way of driving traffic. We would always say essentially spread bet the campaign. So you use a really low budget and you do maybe sort of 5 to 10 campaigns. You play them off each other, see which one is performing the best, and then you strip away the ones which aren't working, and then increase the budgets on the one that are. And then that's a good way of scaling up from there. And it means you're not going to be kind of depleting your advertising budget as well. If that answers your question. So I can't work out how to screen share this, but I'll send some links in here in a minute anyway.
Cheers. Thanks for the question. I've just had a quick look at your boys wear brand. Just had a look at that actually while Will was answering. Got other questions which we can come to at the end. So keep the questions coming, folks. I'll let Will get through his content first.
Brilliant. So yeah, sorry, just going back to this Tidio app then. So it's essentially it's a live chat, really great. You can have multiple agents, but it also has this chatbot feature. And for us, it's fantastic because it will analyze what someone's talking about and it can automate responses based on that. So for instance, if someone comes to our website and they contact us through the live chat option and they say, I need a new website, it will automate a response, which will then send them to a questionnaire. And before you know it, you've got a new inquiry with all their details and enough information in order to be able to send them a proposal. But it works for any type of business. So if you've got, if it's an e-commerce store and someone's asking you how much, let's say for instance, it's a women's gymwear brand like we had, we were getting hundreds and hundreds of messages a day. There's no way that we could manage it ourselves. And one of the top questions was, am I going to be a small, am I medium, am I large sort of thing? And it's such an easy question to answer, but having to actually go through and answer that every single time is so time consuming. So we just automated the response and you can actually track the conversions, and it made up about 20% of the sales that came through from live chat inquiries. Yeah, which was
literally about the sizing.
Just about, because it's something so small, but if someone doesn't get the answer to it and they don't know, so if it says like 6 to 8 and 8 to 10 and it's got small and medium, they don't know the answer, then they might not go through with the transaction. So it might seem like something really minute, but these things make such a big difference. So I'm a big fan of multiple touch points in terms of contacting companies: live chat, contact forms, email inquiries, request a callback. You know, if you want to give people options of how to get in touch, then put as many as you can. I would. Yeah, because you know that person that will jump on live chat and they want an instant response, they might not be bothered about sending you an email, or you know, people less and less want to actually pick up the phone and call you. It's one of those things. I like picking up the phone, but not everyone does. So yeah, that's people getting in touch with you. The next one that I've got listed is analytical tracking and heat mapping. So once the website is live and you're driving a load of traffic there, I think it's really important to assess how people are engaging with the site. It's one of these things, you always launch it with a view that people are going to use it in a certain way, but it never is that. They always end up using it completely differently half the time. So there's a really good tracking and heat mapping tool called Hotjar. And I'll post the link in here in a second. But essentially it puts a screen over the website, and as people use it and interact with it, you'll be able to see what's it gives you a heat map, and you can see what's being clicked on the most. If people are scrolling down and always clicking on a certain button, well, from a UX point of view, it would make sense to redesign that and put the button slightly higher. That might increase your conversion rate by 10%, for example, and that 10% might be 100 grand. You just don't know. So it's really good to see how people are using it and always be on the lookout for how you can improve it. So having some sort of heat mapping tool like Hotjar, also having Google Analytics linked in so that you can track where people are coming from, what pages they're landing on. I think that's super, super important. And it might be a case of just having a retainer with a web freelancer or an agency just to say, can you just put an hour a week or so just to improve the UI and the UX on the website from that point of view? And slowly, as your PPC campaigns improve and as the site structure improves, based on how people are using it, you're going to end up just having this powerhouse of conversions, and it will just get better and better and better. But if you don't do anything, you don't drive any traffic, that's when these websites become stagnant and they just sit there and they don't get any sales, and people can't understand why. So yeah, heat mapping. And then finally, the customer and client retention. It's driving traffic, generating sales is great, but you need to find a way of retaining those people so that you can either wean off the advertising spend or you divert it more towards search engine optimization. But you want to be collecting the data and making it compliant as you're collecting the data from these customers so that you can reuse it. And that can be as simple as, like with the Tidio app, for instance, before people engage with a conversation, you get their name, number, email, and that redirects to MailChimp, and you can then use that for email responses. It might be a case that when people are going through the checkout on an e-commerce store, that if they don't complete the transaction, they get an automated email to say, oh, you've left something in your basket. Here's a 10% coupon code to complete the transaction. And then you'd be amazed, like the amount of people that then goes on to convert, which would have been customers that you'd lost. So collecting the user data and making it readily available to be able to remarket to people is super important, and going to be imperative for making any sort of e-commerce business, or essentially any business, for online inquiries successful from that sort of thing. But yeah, they're the main things for me. I'll send a copy of this into there with our step-by-step, and I'll put some useful links in there so everyone can use them. I think there's a couple of questions if I go through these.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of questions on the questions tab as well. So yeah, Alexander says, the more I listen, the more I realize how much I haven't realized. Bernadette says, the more I listen to, the more I realize how much I need to do. Let's have a look. Astrid has got a question, and I've got some more as well. But what is the best way to create a compelling website? And her example is for an education service, mentorship and academic teaching. So basically a one-to-one service, how to drive traffic to a one-to-one service, like a coaching mentorship.
Yeah, I mean, I would take exactly the same approach. Google Ads is going to be the best way of converting. I think social media ads for something that specific, you probably won't find that it converts much or at all. You could still use social media for brand awareness and to showcase services and that sort of thing, but I would do targeted advertising on Google Ads. And when people get to the platform, it's just really showcasing how it works. So how this one-to-one mentorship is working, whether it's virtual, and if it is virtual at the moment, which I presume it would be, is it video calling? Do you give them questionnaires or kind of a syllabus that they have to follow? So just making very clear what's included, how much it costs, and how to get in touch with you guys. But it doesn't need to be complicated. I think, a simple sort of 3-pager just saying home, about, services or something like that is would be absolutely fine for that type of business.
Okay, we've got literally 3 questions fired in to go with the others whilst you were making your last point, which is, here we go. So, yeah, here's a good one. We'll go through them all, but thank you for your questions, everybody. So Tony says, I'm worried about hacking and website security, especially if I build the website myself. Any tips to prevent or key areas to look at? That's a good question.
Yeah, so there's, sorry, where are we with this one? Okay, about hacking. So there's 2 things with a lot of the time when you get spam, for instance, that will be coming through contact forms. So it's good to get like a capture put on those. It's really, really easy. You can install it in literally like 30 seconds. And that will just stop kind of like bots contacting you and getting those dummy emails that come through. In terms of actual site security and keeping the site secure, you need what's called an SSL certificate. And they do different levels of SSL. The most basic is like a rapid SSL, and then you've got an extended validated and this sort of thing. I would say invest quite heavily in it, especially if you've got an e-commerce store, because it can actually stop people from accessing your website. Some browsers will say this site is not secure, or it might come up as a broken link. Normal SSL can cost you, a rapid SSL, which is the lowest one, will be sort of like £30 a year. And then you've got an extended validated one, which is like one of the top security that you can get, and that would be about £150 a year. It's quite a small expense, but it can make a huge difference. If you get 100 people go through to your website and 50 people can't access it because of that. Yeah. And once they're installed, if you just get a web developer just to have a glance over and just see, make sure that everything's secure in the back end, maybe automate some regular backups and that sort of thing, then you'll be absolutely fine. What platform is it built on? Will they be able to answer if I...
Yeah, they can answer in the chat. Tony, I think that was, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah, loads of other questions. So this question from Chrysalis Partners Consultancy says, what would you recommend for coach and consultant? We have high ticket prospects. I guess it comes back to the ads again, doesn't it? Social media ads.
Yeah. I mean, in answer to any advertising questions, generally, all forms of any type of business will work on Google advertising. The best thing to do is to drive the traffic through Google Ads, so you get high volume of traffic, and it can be quite costly dependent on which industry you're in. And always do a keyword report before, because you'll find that different keywords will have different spends attached to it. So like web design, for instance, can be like £20 a click, whereas you know, a clothing item might only be like £1 a click. So it's always good to gauge it from that side of things before. But I would drive the traffic through on PPC, and then using Facebook Pixel, you can set up what's called remarketing campaigns on Facebook. And just prioritize people that have already visited your website, and your conversion rate is going to be much, much higher. So if you imagine you've got a store that sells plants, for instance, indoor plants, they're coming through on PPC, they might be out and about and don't actually go through with the transaction. And then the next thing in the evening, they're scrolling through Instagram and another advert pops up from something they were viewing earlier in the day. Then the likelihood is that they'll go back and sort of transact on that if it's something that they really want. It goes the same for any business.
Yeah, Lester from Thames Boat Cruises and Events asks, great point about the heat mapping. Can you use Tidio on social pages like Facebook? We use ManyChat currently.
Yeah, so with Tidio, the reason it's so great is you can consolidate WhatsApp, your email, your social media accounts, as well as the actual live chat all into one platform. So we've got 3 agents on there, and we're able to answer like quite a number of inquiries all at the same time without having to hop between loads of different platforms.
Yeah. So Bernadette with a question, and I remember you launched something a couple of years ago, Will. I don't know if you still got that or whether you've looked at it again. I'm trying to remember the name of it. But Bernadette says, by the way, this is brilliant. Does Will's company do a startup package within his business? If so, how much do they start from? So if he does, I'll let him answer. He can direct you to the relevant person to speak to. What was it called again? Didn't you do a startup?
Start Deck. So yes. Yeah, we were doing that. We were doing that with Virgin, weren't we?
Yeah,
getting people funding. Yeah. So one of the problems that I found was when we first started Unbox, a lot of our clients and the way that we were kind of portraying ourselves was like ultra high end premium, this sort of thing. But actually, a lot of the time we were working with startup companies. So we set up a sister brand with startup packages and that sort of thing. But over the years, we kind of amalgamated that and absorbed that back into Unboxed. Yes, we do startup packages. What I will do is, if I just post our website link, there is a contact option in the top right. If anyone's got any projects or they need any advice on anything, if you drop us an email to the hello@unboxed.co.uk email address, I'll be able to, that'll come directly through to me, and I'll be able to help you from there.
Cool. So she's LinkedIn requested you already as well.
Super.
Ivy from the Science Writing Revolution asks, what kind of differences do you see comparing websites for B2C companies and B2B?
Ooh, right. Okay.
That was like one of my previous questions.
Yeah,
Dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, it's really difficult. It depends. It really depends what industry it is. Like B2B companies, for instance, you'll find that they'll have, um, they might have like trade portals, for instance, or something which is going to incentivize businesses working with them. They might have referral schemes. It's also the copy and the content and the case studies that are being shown is very different to the average consumer. So you have to think that B2B companies are probably going there because you specialize in a certain area or industry. So I would say with a B2B website, it would be good to segment either your services or your industry or both so that they can go very specific so that it caters for them. B2C is generally they're coming to you for a type of product. So they'll already know you for that anyway. Very difficult. Depends what it depends what type of business it is.
Yeah. So lots of questions. So if I require people to sign up to my service, so I need to store their information, such as an email address and a phone number, what is the right platform to use? And any inexpensive ways to store the data according to GDPR without hiring an expensive lawyer?
So yeah, it's fairly, you can download a GDPR compliancy form online for probably like 30 quid or something. So if you just Google that, you'll be able to find the actual T's and C's for it. And it's as simple as adding a consent box to a contact form. So when people are getting in touch with them, they just have to consent that you are adding them to a mailing list or you're going to be remarketing to them. The easiest way to collect data, which you can then use to remarket, is MailChimp. I mean, it's still our favorite to use from an external and internal management perspective, just because it's so easy to use. So I'd recommend MailChimp from that, and that'll integrate with pretty much any platform.
Okay, I will get through all the questions. I told you, Will, it's going to be an avalanche. It's exactly what happened with my webinar earlier, which is awesome. So thank you all for being.
That's fine. I'd rather people ask questions than me just rambling on about nonsense.
So Ivy follows up with, what's the best way to drive site visitors to join our waiting list form? I think my point before I'll let Will, he's got more experience in this than me, is that I said you might want to obviously rename it something else so it's a bit more attractive for them to sign up to that waiting list.
I think incentivizing people to join the waiting list in order to sign up, it needs to be something because they're expressing interest before you've even launched something. So it might be a case of sign up to our newsletter to receive 10% off your first order. Or something like that, which is going to engage people. Generally, people won't just sign up to and give their information over to people without getting anything back. So it's about that giving and taking, or that they're joining a club or there's some sort of exclusivity about it. That's a really good thing to try and push.
Yeah, I agree. Some kind of exclusivity, some kind of limited number of whatever it is, to actually get people to give away their information. And the more value you're giving away, the more information they're going to give you, obviously, whether you're trying to get a phone number off them or is it just an email. But really good question. Let's have a quick look. Other questions that we got. I saw a few more that I haven't even looked at over there. Where was it? Alexander. Is it a good idea for the website to be aimed at getting consumers to send an inquiry rather than putting the price on the site explicitly? I think that's quite a common one, isn't it? People asking about pricing.
Yeah, so that's something that we've always toyed with and battled with over the years because with our type of industry, I don't know, obviously we've got people from all different types of companies here. With ours, it is very bespoke. It depends on how much time it's going to take, whether you got to purchase any plugins, and it depends what type of work it is. For us, what we did, if anyone, I can't find a way to share my screen, which is a bit annoying, but if anyone goes to our website and hovers over get a quote in the top right, what we do is we custom built an inquiry form, and in there we built it using a platform called Typeform. And what happens is people are directed to a questionnaire, and it will collect their customer information, which will automatically add them into the CRM, and add them as a new customer into Xero, which is ready for sending a quote. But it will ask them all the details about the project. It will ask them budgets, and I think, yeah, it depends what type of industry it is. If it's an e-commerce store, yes, you need to obviously display what the pricing is. If it's a service-based company, you could do example packages,
like that.
Yeah, so this has worked really well for us. If it's if you need more information in order to send someone a quote, just make it as easy as possible. So essentially, this, you can just keep clicking the down arrows. But in there, we ask people for budgets and how urgent is the project? Do they need any additional services? And you start to paint a picture. You can go on to automate quotes based on the information they're providing from there. I'm a big fan of the package system. So if you say, you give an example package, you say prices from X amount of pounds, that's quite a good way of gauging with people what your pricing is roughly. It's always very difficult. It depends whether you think that you'll convert with someone calling you. But the other thing is, you don't want to waste your time. Someone calls you and you tell them their price after having a 15-minute conversation, and then they say, oh no, that's too much for me, because then it's a waste of everyone's time. Yeah. So quite good to pre-qualify people. If anyone's got any questions about Typeform, it has been amazing for us. So it integrates. We use Asana for project management. So it will automatically, so it can automate quotes. It will automatically upload them as a new project on the basis that they accept. It'll add them into Xero as a new customer, and it's really good. You integrate things with Zapier, and really handy
kind of stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Shalini says, sorry to ask again, is it possible to start with Shopify yourself? Sorry, I might have missed some of the earlier questions, people piling in now, so apologies, Shalini. Is it possible to start with Shopify yourself and then go to professional website designer later? Can things like tracking and using customer data, such as what's been left in your basket, be integrated later?
Yeah, 100%. So if anyone goes onto our website at some point, there's a project on there called Eclectic Furniture. She launched a website about a year ago for furniture, and it wasn't converting. She had an existing Shopify store. She came to us with the problems. We came up with a solution, redeveloped the website, integrated new tracking tools. If you go to work and then go down to Eclectic Furniture, it will be on there. It's the first one. So we developed a new store for her, and then we assisted her with her PPC advertising and social media, and then we were able to increase her sales. And funny enough, she sent me a message a minute ago saying that she's done sort of $2,000 today already, so she's really happy, which is great. But yeah, a lot of people will build it themselves on Shopify initially, but it's not a case of just building the website. You need to it needs to be designed in a way that can convert. It's easy to upload products and make it have the purchasing capabilities, but actually to make it as a good sales tool, there's a number of things that you can do to make it better from that perspective. So it's good to get you off the ground though. So that's why it's a really good platform.
Thanks, Samantha. It says Airtable is also awesome. Joanna says, I'm building my website using WordPress and WooCommerce due to having a next to nothing budget, but I've quickly got out of my depth. What would Will advise? Stick with it or switch to something like Shopify? I'm sure you're not the only one, Joanna.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how far into it you are. If you think a lot of like, for instance, if someone came to us with that question, we would probably say it'd be easier to start from scratch, and we might still build it in WordPress and salvage some of it. If you're continuing to still build it yourself and you're really struggling with WordPress, it's probably only going to get worse later on down the line. So I would probably make the switch to Shopify. It will take you some time to build it again, but at least you're going to be referencing something that you've already planned and already started building.
Yeah. Airtable's also awesome. Yeah, thanks for that one. Tom, we now live in an age of numerous easy-to-use website builders and e-commerce platforms. This has democratized web development and e-commerce. However, many startups cannot afford a design agency. Absolutely, and that's, Will mentioned before, this freelancer.com is one website. There's numerous others out there. offering similar services, or you can, like Joanna is, have a go at building something yourself. I mean, there are other options out there. It depends. I think when you're bootstrapping like that, it's, focus on what you're good at, and then I think the first thing you can outsource, it needs to be something you have no expertise on, and it's taking you an unbelievable amount of time, and it's stopping you getting to where you want to be.
Yeah, and then a lot of the time we find that, and this is me biased saying this, but I would say 9 times out of 10 in that scenario, people say, I wish that I'd just got a web design company to do it from the start. And then if you're deciding between a freelancer and an agency, yes, an agency is going to be more expensive because they've got a team, they might have overheads of office premises and that sort of thing, but you get continuity and you get a team that work together rather than an individual. Like, individuals can have their own potfalls because you're waiting on one person and sometimes it can be unreliable, but there are some really good developers which are freelancers that if someone's got a lower budget or something, I can recommend some really good developers. But you can always start there and then you build up to it. You got to take into account what the budget is, how much time you can invest into it, what your goals are really. Yeah. I mean, if your budget's on the lower end of the scale, I would get something really low, kind of low fidelity up and running. So let's say you've got a handful of products, just have it so that it's got the purchasing capability on Shopify, and put that budget towards marketing. You drive in the traffic, increase the sales, and then take that budget to get a better website later on down the line, and then you can hand it off to someone else to run it.
Good tips. Okay, last couple of questions, guys. Any last ones? Ping them in now. I'm just going to finish off. Alexander says, is it a good idea to make the website into multiple languages purely to attract customers from abroad? If I know 2 languages, but the website is in 5, for example.
I think if you have the capability to be able to add a language selector, then yeah, amazing. Just take into account that changing to some languages might change the structure of the website. You may also need to get a translator to do the copywriting to make sure that it's obviously relevant and translating properly in other languages. But currency converters, language selectors, I think it's great. It's like having multiple points of contact. It's making it easier for the customer to engage with you. So yeah, I think if you can do it, then offer that as an option.
Cool. Like I say, last questions, folks. I launched my Boy Wonder web shop 3 weeks ago after spending 4 years setting up and building an audience, but I've had no sales yet so far. Any ideas, any tips that we can give him? Well,
it depends how he's advertising. When you say that you set it up 4 years, it's taking you 4 years to get it set up. The main thing is, how are you advertising it? It might be a case of I'll just have a look over it with our company for you, or we can just set up a call to talk through it. Very difficult to say why it's not converting, but there will be a reason.
Heat map it. It's one tip Will gave earlier. See where people are going when they get on your site, or like you say, is traffic. Is anyone going to the site?
Yeah, it could be price point. It could be a number of things. But yeah, reach out to me and we'll see what we can do to help.
Top man. If I need to develop a bespoke with a complicated back end rather than an off the shelf, what is the best way to approach?
Reach out to a freelancer or an agency, tell them exactly what you want, and they'll be able to sort of plan from there. I think if you're going down that bespoke route and you don't want to go like completely custom build, WordPress is probably going to be 9 times out of 10. That's what they're going to recommend, just because it's the most flexible. And if you need something a little bit more bespoke, that's going to be the best option. But again, if you want to have a chat with any of our team and about anything sort of project specific, feel free to reach out to us.
Awesome. Just having a last look through in case I know I'm going to miss somebody out like I did before. Answered that one from Tony. Answered that one from Boy Wonder. Any tips on how to find a reliable developer, like any website or sources to recruit, and any key questions to ask while interviewing?
People per hour can be great. Just be wary of overseas developers. I would probably just opt, because you've got cultural differences, you've got the time zone differences, and that can cause a problem. So I'd probably look for someone UK based initially. Find someone that you get on with. I'd try and find someone that's responsive. So if you're sending a message, just try and gauge how quickly they're coming back to you. Ask to see their portfolio, maybe even ask for some references of previous companies that they've worked with, and they'll be able to give you a straight answer.
Yeah, that is key, I think. Again, asking for to see their body of work is a really good question to ask straight off the bat. Okay. Whew. Bet you're thirsty after that.
Yeah, no, brilliant. That's interesting. Thanks for everyone obviously asking questions. It's great to kind of have that open discussion. But if anyone needs anything, then feel free to reach out to us, and I can answer any more. If it's technical questions, then I'll probably have to get someone else to bring in on that. But yeah, we'll be happy to help.
Of course. And as I say, there's literally unboxed is unbxd.co.uk/contact. And you can give Will and his team a shout there. To have a conversation. Like I say, often another pair of eyes is super helpful. So look, thank you all very much indeed. Here you go. Last question then. Lester says, you mentioned you use an affiliate for SEO. Do you do most of your other services in-house, i.e. provide one-stop shop for most elements? I think you do.
Yeah, so we do everything in-house. SEO and copywriting is the only thing that we outsource. And the reason that we do that, SEO is a whole nother kettle of fish. And the company that we work with, one of the best in the country, they've got sort of like 30 guys that just solely work on SEO and copywriting. And they'll have a dedicated copywriter, which is specific to a certain industry. It's always going to be the best option. It's you need someone that specializes in that. All other services, brand identity, any print, signage, design, web design, web app development, hosting, content creation, digital marketing, all of that's done in-house.
Awesome. Paola says, uber fabulous and very informative. Many thanks, Will and Alex. Joanna, great session. Thanks so much, Will. Fiona, really interesting. Shalini, that was really useful. Lucy, thank you. Brilliant session. Tony, thanks. Really cool. You are all really welcome.
Thanks, guys.
Excellent, says our business coach from Chrysalis. That's a good question. Is there a professional body that is a reliable way that certifies the qualification of an IT person? I don't know the answer to that, I'm afraid.
I mean, there's tons of different ones, but how reliable they are is very difficult. You've got things like the Drum, which you'll essentially only see with agencies, but you've got Drum Awards. You can have people that are Google certified, Facebook certified, but I would more go off their previous work and their client base more so than awards and things, because it's so easy to skew that area by purchasing things and getting featured in publications by paying for them and that sort of thing. So
yeah, that is true. The Rent an Award gang.
Yeah, we want you on the front page of this award, but it's going to cost you £5,000. Okay, great.
We know a few of them between us, I'm sure. Right, guys. Look, that's a wrap for today. So I'd like to thank Will Niven from Unboxed for joining me today. Massive pleasure having you on board, buddy. Hopefully we'll be doing live events soon, and we can get you up to Olympia at the NEC in spring next year. We hope to be there to talk about this kind of stuff. In the meantime, everybody, if you'd like to join us tomorrow, we're kicking off at 12 o'clock. We've got Lucy Day from Social Day, how to get started with social media marketing. 2 o'clock, we've got Ollie Whittle from Swarm Marketing talking about succeeding with online advertising. And then at 4 p.m., we've got John Auckland talking about crowdfunding and the merger of Seeders and Crowdkeep. And then at 7 o'clock in the evening, we're trialing an evening one, also because Laura lives in Hawaii. So we've got Laura Di Benedito, who is a TEDx speaker and #1 best-selling author of the 6 Habits book. So come and join us tomorrow for a super busy day. In the meantime, I'd like to thank Will once again. And thank you all for joining us. Much appreciated.
Thanks, guys. See you later. Cheers, Alex.
Cheers, mate. Bye now.